Okay, so you'll notice here that I have created a make-believe set of workers at Target and their age. So for example, this represents somebody who works at Target that's 17 years old. This is a lot of data points. This is a 7x5, so there are 35 data points here. Making a stem plot is possible, but not something that I actually want to do because this is getting a little bit large for the data set. So instead, I'm going to create a histogram. So creating this histogram, I first locate my youngest and my oldest. So in here, it looks like 17. Do I have, oh, I have a 16-year-old. So 16 is gonna be, I have a couple 16-year-olds who work at Target. So that's gonna be my youngest value. My oldest, it looks like my oldest worker is 68. So that's my youngest and my oldest. I'm doing this in order to try to figure out how to break up my classes. When I looked at the presidential age at inauguration, I broke it up into fives. Here, if I have to go all the way from, let's say 15, right? 15 to 70 years old, breaking it down to fives or groups of fives, that's gonna be too much. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna actually go by tens in this data. So that's the biggest decision. How do I break up my data? And we just did that. So I'm gonna break it into tens. So I don't have the capability of zooming out, but that's the capability I have with this limited technology. I am going to go from age 10. Now, the other thing is I want, when I actually come down to my graph, I want it to go by tens on here. I'm gonna go like this because that means it doesn't start at 0 years old. You can't work at Target when you're 0. So I'm starting not at 0. So I wanted to go like this by tens so that it's 10 and 20. That's what I've decided I want to do. So if I want to do that, then I would go from 10 not to 20, but to 19. And then I would go from 20 to 29. Always make sure these are the same number of people that are in it. There are 10 values here, 10 values here, and so on and so forth. So then I'd have 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, and last but not least, 60 to 69. Now, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. I want to have at least 5 when I do this. The other component is that I always set these up so that this right here becomes how I label them down here. So those are a couple of things with the histograms just in the setup. Now it's just about counting how many fall. That's the hardest part. Now we just count how many fall within each one of these, what we call intervals. So from 10 to 19-year-old, I am going to go through and just count how many I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It looks like I have 14 that are within that age group, which makes sense. A lot of younger workers are working at Target. Now, age 20 to 29, I'm going to do the same thing. How many fall within my 20s? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It looks like 7. I have 7 workers that are in their 20s. Now I'm going to go to 30s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 that are in their 30s. Okay, how many are in my 40s? I have 1, 2, 3. 3 that are in the 40s. Okay, I'm going to make that nicer. 5 and 3. Now we have in the 50s. Do I have anybody? Yep, there's 2. 1, 2. I have 2 that are in my 50s. And last, whoops, 2 that are in my 50s. And last but not least, in my 60s, I have a couple of those. Those might be like retirement jobs. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like 4 people in their 60s that are working at Target. This is going to be what we call a class. And this is a frequency, meaning like how often there were. The last step is to go through and actually make my histogram. So I'm going to do 10, 20, always by these right here. 30, 40, 50, 60, and I have to go to 70 because I do have people in my 60s. And now I build that histogram. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 is my top right there. And I do have 14 people that are 10. So I have to go all the way up there that are 10 to 20 years old right there. I usually like to actually put how many there are within the bar just so that I can see it easier, but it should be pretty obvious from here. Okay, from 20 to 30, I have 7 of them. So I'm going to build this out pretty quickly from here on out. 14, 7, I have 5 for the next one. I have 3. I have 2. And then I have 4 that are this age. Okay, 5, 3, 2, and 4. So there it is. The last thing I'm going to do about this, I'm just going to verbally cuss about this. My center, well, if there's 14 here, and I told you guys that there were 35, so halfway in between that, so if I had 36 of them, I'd be in 18. So between like 17 and 18 values is going to be my center. Well, there are 14 values just in there. So by the time I get here, there's 21. That means that my center is somewhere in here between 20 and 30. Again, we're going to get more into the idea of center later, but if I'm thinking about 35 values, then my center would be somewhere in here. Okay, my shape or unusual features, we actually have no unusual features here. There's no gaps, there's no outliers. My shape goes like this. This is that tail that I was talking about in notes here. This is definitely skewed to the right. That's my right. Okay, so this is skewed to the right, and my spread is from, and I actually can't see that on my graph. I'm not going to say from 10 to 70 because that's not accurate. My spread is from 16, because that's my lowest, to my highest, which is 68. And that is your example for building a histogram.